here we've developed the topography, we've developed the building pad and a first floor. And what we're going to talk about are walls, certain parameters that the walls have, doors, and windows. So we'll go to wall first in the Home tab. And I'm going to just modify these levels here. And working with levels is really important when working with any of these building components because you can lock those components to the levels. Or they could be unlocked. Like that's a major thing here. So if you look at the wall,
set the level first so that you can have a reference.
okay.
Because that slab is at a random spot.
So let's see, I'll just control this level and say it's at 85 feet, just so we have a nice, and then I'll move this slab and say I want it, oh, sorry, where'd it go? I want it to be at level 4, and its height offset is 0. So it should be right. It should have moved to that level. No? One more time. Okay, there we go. So we're going to be working on level 4. I'll just adjust this again. 5 feet. About 86. And even if you notice now that that floor is locked to that level. So every time I change a level or something like that, it's locked to it. So now let's continue on to the wall.
Can you put this level as up?
Yeah, I could just copy this one up. We'll say a 10-foot floor-to-floor height. That'll give me my level 5.
Could you rename them something like?
How about we say
like ground level or something?
first floor
There you go.
and second floor.
And then subfloor 1 or something.
Sure.
We're gonna go down.
All right. And if you notice, I'm in section here, and that's where I'm looking at those levels. Yeah. Whoa. Go to my plan view. I'm going to go to level 4.
Why isn't it not renamed there?
Not sure. It's actually not even showing here. I'm not seeing any of these pads here either, huh?
It's in wireframe right now.
Yeah, that's probably one. This file's a little funky. That's what I'm coming to here.
Let's put it in 3D and see if it's there.
Is this a different file? There's no pad or floor.
Well, there's a pad there, right?
Yeah.
And there it is. There's right there. Are there 2 Revit files open right now?
It's project 1. Yeah.
Oh, there was 2 files open.
Yeah. There we go. There it is.
And they're named over there.
Yeah.
All right, so we only got 10 minutes for this video.
Okay. There we go.
So what are you doing?
So now I'm going to model some walls. Now that we've resolved the levels issues, and
What was the problem? That there were 2 files open at the
Right.
same time? So we had to close the other file because confusing because there's multiple viewports.
Right, and like I was mentioning the other day, that some people work with multiple views open, and I like to work with just one view, and I control tab through those views. I think this is the old file,
Yeah.
so I'm going to close that one. And now we're just working with our one file here. Okay, so we're going to model some walls on that floor slab. In plan view, I'll go to walls, and you'll see in this properties, there's a base constraint, there's base offset, and there's top constraints. So you can say, I want this from my first floor to my second floor. Or you can say that you want it unconnected, right? And then when it's unconnected, you can define those things. So say like you want, if you have a 10-foot floor-to-floor height, but say you want a 4-foot partition wall or something like that, you can do that if you don't want to have those things constrained from level to level. I'll go up to second floor here. So there's different ways of drafting the walls as well. You have your line types here, so you can go with rectangles, different polygons, arcs, and things like that. And if you notice that it's drawing to center line here. Sometimes you don't want that, right? So say if I want to draw on this slab edge, I could modify that and say I want to start with the finished face.
So you use that CAD file as a template.
Definitely using the CAD file as a template. So now you'll see.
Actually, I could do the garage. Like, let's model this floor real fast.
Okay, let's model this floor. Start here. And you notice that Revit will complete those walls. Let's look at that in 3D. And so that's from level 1 to level 2. So let's look at doors.
Get all those walls in there.
All the walls?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do the perimeter wall.
Yeah. Because I want to show them how to use it.
Okay. Start again in floor plan. You gotta make sure you're in the right level as well, because it could be drawing it on your subfloor in your basement. It could be drawing it on level 20.
How do you check that?
Typically at the top of the browser here, you'll see it'll have the view name you're in. So just double checking that. Sometimes if you can't find where you drew that last wall, and you might find later that you drew a bunch of walls. So just recognizing what level you're on is important.
That's a deck. So that doesn't have.
On the first floor down in the, object browser.
Right.
And so when you're clicked on the first floor, everything you draw is going to be a first floor wall?
Right. But the thing is, so say my first floor view is here, and I check wall, I could still select that I could draw that on the second floor. So say if you're trying to match your level 1 with your level 2, you could use that as a reference, and it'll draw it on level 2, even though you're looking at level 1. So let's go back to first floor, and we'll complete these walls here.
That's a balcony right there. Just go back.
Okay.
So
And another thing you'll notice is that, so say you move from one slab edge to a different slab edge, and say I want this on the other side of that line, if you just press space, it'll move it to the other side of that line. If you notice that it's moving from one side to the other. There you go. Let's look at that in 3D space.
Awesome.
Just as simple. Let's look at a couple doors.
Put them in like where they would actually.
And if you'll notice in this properties dialog that there's single flush, 36 by 84, and they'll give you a set. And this is a family that's already been loaded into the project. Sometimes you won't have that library. In that case, you can just go to Insert and go Load Family, and it'll typically take you to the path where Revit's default library is. You could modify this path or find a new path if you have your own library. You just look through your browser and find that library, and you can load. So say we're looking for doors. Say I want
Double glass.
curtain double.
Oh,
Which one do you want, Jay?
double glass.
Double glass. Okay, so let's do that, and you just do open. Give it a second to load. And I'll go back to my floor plan. I typically like to work in floor plan when I'm setting windows and doors and things like that. And now I'll check, I'll see that this new family's loaded. And again, it'll give you a bunch of options here, right, for sizes. So I'd like some large doors towards my west views. And you'll notice that these components, I can't load them on ceilings or floors and things like that. They're wall-based families. And you'll notice with different types of components are meant for different types of placement. So sinks, toilets, urinals, and things like that, they'll be based on certain things like floors and ceilings. So this is a wall-based family. And so when I hover over a wall, it says, okay, you can place it here. So let's go and do these on the balcony. I could place as many as I want. You'll notice these are nice families, and I think Revit's beginning to upgrade their family types because these ones have the door tag already associated with that door. Okay, let's do one here. Okay. All right. Just adhering to my client needs here. So it's easy as that. I mean, find the door you want on any manufacturer's website. A lot of manufacturers do have RVT families, and it's as simple as downloading that family. Loading.
Well, let's say you wanted to put the door in an exact place, and you didn't have an underlying drawing, whatever, say you wanted it 6 inches away from the wall.
Right. You'll notice that.
So what's the question?
The question is, what if you want to place a door or a window or some type of component in a specific location? Revit is really good in terms of parameters, in terms of dimensioning. So if I select this component that's already placed, you'll see that to the center line of that door, it's thinking that, oh, well, it's best to show the user, me, that it's from the center line of this wall, it's 6 inches or 6 feet from there to that center line. You could also move these by, if it doesn't snap to a certain thing, you could just tab, and it'll tab to all the possible, essentially, grips or parameters that you'd like.
Maybe center line, outer, or inner.
So say I want to go from finished face of exterior, and I'll just move that dimension string.
To go from the finished face of structure.
Finished face of structure. That's a little difficult question here because this is a generic wall. It just has the finished faces, but you can modify that wall type to have a finished face, a structural face, and all those things. And I use this tool a lot, thin lines. So right now there's thick lines, and if I snap that button, it'll make everything thin line. And if I go to a detailed view here with this button, so fine, it'll show me my layers of gyp, my insulation. If it's your brown coat, whatever you defined in that wall type, it'll show those things as detailed as possible. And if you tab through, it can snap to any one of those things.
Let's move forward. If you could, let's try to hold our questions till after the video. If you guys
So let's look in 3D view and see what we've done here. Great. We've got our doors.
do some windows on here. This facade map is fine.
So back to my plan view.
We'll finish that.
So we'll go to Windows, and essentially, same thing, right? Load the window type you want, and go for it. So let's get some windows in this location here.
Get some big ones. Different ones.
We could even change the size, so 36 by 72, so those windows are taller.
Now load another window family.
Okay, so let's load another window family.
again, went to the insert menu, went to load family, and then went to this browser.
Right, and again, this is all Revit's default templates, right? So, and it's nice they give you these small thumbnails. You can kind of preview what type of window you'd like.
By tabbing up and down with your directional buttons on your keyboard.
Let's go old school here.
Do it on this side.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be seeing.
Okay, so let's go back to Home tab, back to the window. And for the review board in the area, they're going to want these nice old windows to match everybody else in the neighborhood, so we'll do that on that street front. Let's look at that in 3D. And if you notice these windows, and I select that, and you look at your properties dialog, you'll see that it's also associated with those levels. And there's offsets for sill heights and things like that. So let's say I want this at 1.5 feet. Sill height. Right, so it's as easy as that, as changing the height of those things. So now you start to see that these components that you place, they're specific to certain types of components, say like a wall-based family or a ceiling-based family or a roof-based family. And that they're parametric in terms of how they're constrained at the top, at the bottom, into levels. And with that, I think we've wrapped up looking at how to set up basic wall layout and placing doors and windows.